On to our next session now, everybody, and this time we're going to be discovering what's next, the eruption of the UAE. Where are we now when it comes to AI? So the UAE has launched an ambitious artificial intelligence strategy to really establish themselves as a global AI leader by 2031. By harnessing the transformative power of AI to drive economic growth, enhance government efficiency, and improve quality of life for citizens and for residents. But what does this mean for marketers, and what can we do to understand the current landscape? Well, to discuss this topic in detail, I'd like to welcome to the stage now Alejandro Fischer, SVP Strategy and Product Innovation, Havas. Thank you, Alejandro. In this role, Alejandro spearheads the strategic vision and integration across Havas Creative, Havas Red, and Havas Media within the MENA markets, dedicated to forging meaningful connections between brands and consumers. He leverages data, research, and insights to deliver effective and innovative solutions. So looking forward to hearing what Alejandro has to say. And joining Alejandro, we also have Irfan Verji, UAE Country Transformation Leader, IBM. So Irfan's got more than 20 years of enterprise technology experience, a passion for building global teams that accelerate technology to commercial maturity, and currently Irfan is leading IBM's initiatives for UAE country transformation, focusing on generative AI, sustainability, and security. And our moderator, ladies and gentlemen, for this panel discussion, I'd like you please to welcome Camille Marchant, who is both the Festival Director of Dubai Links and the Art Festival of Creativity in Riyadh. She's got a results-driven events director with over 16 years' experience in delivering events not only in the UAE, but in South Africa, the Netherlands, Singapore, and France, across a variety of different sectors, such as healthcare, advertising, government, and other strategic initiatives as well. So this is going to be a really, really interesting panel discussion. So over to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Aren't we talking about the hottest topic on everyone's list? AI. So, as we obviously heard, the UAE has launched a very ambitious strategy. I think I'll start with you, Alejandro. Something we can all agree on is that AI is good for economic growth. What does that mean for marketers?
I'm so glad we're talking about AI today. No one's talking about it. No.
I know.
What does it mean for marketers? I think there's so many different implications when we look at AI. When we're describing the 2031 strategy, the first thing that caught my attention is that it doesn't start with industries. It starts with people, right? And as we just mentioned, it also has the words quality of life in it. For me, the most important thing is to enable marketers to first position AI as a force of good. How can we help the UAE market AI? UAE is unique, as we know, in the sense that it's a nation that prides itself on progress, on innovation. We have missed a couple of boats, I think, when it comes to data regulation, when it comes to certain practices, digital transformation. Today with AI, we have a key opportunity to really help position ourselves through marketing as leaders in this space in a way that really connects with the vision of the UAE.
Absolutely. I think I read a PwC forecast that said AI could contribute to up to 13.6% of the UAE's gross domestic product by 2030. I think, Irfan, from a generative AI point of view, how do you think generative AI supports this growth?
Look, I think the world we live in over the last, I'd say, 10 years, we've started with machine learning, we've moved on to traditional AI, and now we're in the world of generative AI. My point of view, having worked with marketers for the last 10 years in technology organizations and supporting them on their strategies, is the world we live in will require both traditional AI and generative AI. And generative AI is the ability to take content and turn it into knowledge, right? So knowledge workers will be the most at risk. So when you look at generative AI, the capability of what it can do when you start thinking about its ability to complement what knowledge workers do, the impact is phenomenal. Now, to give you an example, right? Many organizations are dealing with huge volumes of data. In all of your respective organizations, there's probably massive data silos from your product team, from your customer experience teams. I had a discussion with one of the large telcos a few years back, focused on how can they understand why people will call the call center and proactively reach out to them before somebody even calls. And how do you do that? And when you start looking at the power of network data, you look at the power of call center transcripts, you start looking at different patterns that customers have across their marketing journey, and even in terms of how they use the products, you can start to predict. And I think generative AI gives you the ability to give you insight very fast. But the use cases go from customer experience, probably the #1 use case. And in IBM, we discuss digital labor as a key topic area to provide massive efficiencies. Additional areas include app modernization as well, and then obviously product innovation around this.
You've obviously mentioned machine learning, traditional AI. We've talked about generative AI. These are all kind of buzzwords that are happening right now. What does that mean for IBM?
Well, interestingly, IBM has a concept of client zero, right? And a lot of organizations have this. It's like eat your own dog food, drink your own champagne. What it basically means is that we try our technology on ourselves first. We demonstrate that it works. And if you think about what we've been able to do in the marketing organization, we have been able to drive massive efficiencies within our own organization using generative AI for content creation. And so we've partnered with Adobe Firefly. This is a well-known case study that's on our websites, and a strategic partnership around what we can do on content development. And then with IBM Consulting, that very strong capabilities around transformation of the whole customer experience. And I think recently we've done work with Riyadh Air, and you'll see that as well in terms of really how do you imagine the airline of the future, right? And generative AI capabilities around chatting, with the airline to help you plan your trip, give you a completely different experience in terms of helping the airline own end-to-end that customer journey. So from an IBM perspective, we've been able to probably increase efficiency within our organization by over 50%, 70% in some cases as well. We've saved significant costs, and then the cost savings, we go and we reinvest it into the business to drive better skills, capabilities, and redeploy people in the right ways.
So we've talked efficiency. Alejandro, what about challenges?
I think there's so many layers to this. By the way, I love this idea of patient zero and eating your own dog food, or in our case, drinking our own Kool-Aid, right, in the advertising world. I think...
I don't know about eating our own dog food.
Yeah.
I'll go with the drinking our own champagne.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of challenges. One is the difference between how we perceive AI in marketing and advertising, in my case, and how consumers see it. Today, if you look at CMO surveys, strategy surveys, the sentiment around AI is overwhelmingly positive. And when we look at the challenges are the ones that we are all thinking about: biases, privacy, data accuracy. But for the end users, they're not as excited. And the main concern is, am I going to lose my job over this, right? Is society going to be better because of AI? So navigating and educating around those topics, I think that's a key challenge to overcome. And on that same note, when we think about us as marketing professionals, educating our workforce and preparing them, making sure that we are future ready and that AI goes beyond just having ChatGPT installed in your laptop or in your phone. For us, the first stage is to make sure that we think of AI as rocket fuel, not rocket science, that we do identify those ways how we can become more efficient, more productive, and deliver better work to our clients and more meaningful work. And for me, that's both a challenge and an opportunity.
Is it easy to sell kind of AI-led
I think.
campaigns to your clients? Is that something that clients are buying into?
So that's interesting. We do not sell AI-led campaigns, but what we are selling to clients, it's an AI backend. It's new ways of working, new ways of operating that are powered by AI. And this has many different forms. It could be on micro-targeting and audience identification, on programmatic or social buying on the media side. And just having the word AI, it makes it much easier to sell to a client. It's impressive. But when we are selling work to clients, we're also using image generation to create storyboards. We are writing copy with AI. We have no such thing as an AI campaign. Oh, we took these mid-journey images, we put them on billboards, but we use AI more and more at each stage of the creative planning and media process.
That's really interesting. I think when we had our initial call, I think something that Eruption said was, everyone says content is king, but reality is context is queen. So do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. Of course, it's a fun little saying, right? Because as marketers, we always think content is the most important thing. And however, the context in terms of what is going on around the world today. Right now, there are thousands of conversations on Twitter, on Snapchat. We just saw the prior presentation. There is a digital conversation happening right now across every single topic. And if brands are going to publish content thinking that they have a point of view to share, and they just throw it out into the ether of the digital sphere, they can come across as tone deaf, right? Not understanding the context, what's going on, right? So the key element here is, if you are a marketer, how can you do digital listening, get insights, real-time insights on what's going on? And in my prior organization, where I was working with one of the CMOs of one of the large beverage organizations, it was really interesting because they were able to unlock a use case, which was fascinating, because it was it was actually related to the Game of Thrones. Has anyone seen Game of Thrones? Is anyone planning to watch it? Okay, if you are, it's a spoiler. But effectively, this particular organization, had a campaign linked to the Game of Thrones. And in the last season, what happened was the White Walkers, what did they do? They all fell, right? And all the copy that they were going to send out was just not functioning anymore. They could not send it out. It just didn't make sense. So they went to digital listening. They understood the context. They recreated the campaign in 24 hours. They published it. And that piece of content got an increase in reach of 250% than what they had originally planned. And that is directly linked to initial consideration, your share of consideration of the product, which drives revenue. So that's a great example for me in terms of context. So that's one part. I'd love to respond to the challenges as well.
Yes, please.
There are a few interesting challenges I would love to touch upon as well, because we see this all the time. And I think if you start putting a lot of your ideas, a lot of your data into ChatGPT, do you know where it goes? What happens to this data? Let's say you upload the names of individuals, maybe it's got some personal information about your strategy. What if your competitor has the right prompt and is able to somehow access this data that you've put into the system? So it becomes really important to understand data governance, and these are the kinds of issues that organizations are trying to put their hands around today. Is data systems are not all equal. it's really important to put your foundation layer together, organize your data sets, and make sure that as you start to ensure how your data moves into an AI system, then your AI system has governance too, because your AI system can have data poisoning. Let's say there's a hack in your system, and all of a sudden the wrong data set comes in. Your AI is going to give the wrong information, and they could give the wrong information to your customers, and that could be a challenge. And so the technology layers that are coming on top is just not only data governance, it's not only AI governance, but then we're seeing the rise of something called small language models. So you've seen large language models, ChatGPT, right? That can, 175 billion parameters, and the number's just getting bigger. They're really good for the average answer. However, the small language models are going to be a lot more customized, related to your data for you, and it'll be on your systems with private data sets that don't get shared outside. And this is one of the big trends that we're seeing, is the importance of securing your data, creating data foundations, putting the AI level on top, and then the governance and the security on top, and have a world where there'll be multiple models that you use, not just one, and then a way to secure the information going around it.
We're definitely going to get onto the topic of ethics and transparency and frameworks and structures shortly. I want to stick a little bit about customer experience. And you mentioned a good point about data, and the previous session obviously tapped on that a little bit. What do you think data collection, et cetera, is doing in terms of customer loyalty and boosting loyalty for brands?
I think it's an incredibly important aspect of how we create value to our audiences, how we build lifetime value with our clients. And AI is, of course, playing a key role in this. I think, actually, the main use case in marketing today for AI is content creation and content personalization. Right? But bar none, it's like when you looked at the ranking is SEO optimization, it is blogs. So in terms of creating better, more personalized experiences and building loyalty out of that, the role, it's immense. And that means also that when the prompt is better, when the experience, when the UX is better, that means that the willingness of consumers to share their data with us and being able to personalize experiences based on the data we shared, it is all a virtuous cycle that we can take advantage of. So I think data is as important as ever. It's not going to go away. The role that AI plays into messaging that data and creating better consumer experiences, that's going to enhance what loyalty looks like for us in the future.
I'd love to hear from an IBM point of view in terms of loyalty and brand engagement.
I think that one of the important things to consider is brand engagement, brand loyalty, and personalization needs to take a broader view than just marketing as a function. And my personal perspective is marketing and contact center customer experience is really one function, right? On the one hand, you've got marketeers trying to get customers' attention, right? That's the KPI, reach and awareness. And then you've got the contact center, and what's their KPI? How quickly can you hang up on your customer? But hang on a minute, it's the same customer, right? So I believe that the future of loyalty and customer experience lies in unifying our functions around the customer, and then making sure that as you serve the customer across all your different functions in your organization, you are able to stitch your data together, right? Have one perspective and serve that customer as a human being, right? Not as just, part of a metric within a function in the organization. So I think that there's that element around customer experience that we should probably rename all of our marketing events customer experience events going forward.
100%, and it's definitely about personalizing that customer experience across those different platforms. Sorry, I hope it's not me that's buzzing. You mentioned the prompt. What's beyond the prompt? Where do we see kind of AI skills for marketers developing beyond the prompt? That's a whole session in itself. Do we have time?
Yeah, there's a quote I read a couple of days ago that said that AI is good at everything computers are bad at, right? And bad at everything computers are good at, right? In terms of, the way it manages data. And when I think about my function in strategy and the way we use AI, the first thing that we say is AI is a partner. It's a dialogue. It's a dance that you establish. So it's less about the prompt and about the ability to iterate, about the ability to have an engaging dialogue with AI to have unexpected results. Even one of the most called out elements of AI and Gen AI today is the fact that AI hallucinates, right? But for us, when you think about it in a creative function beyond the prompt, there is magic in that. There's an example that I ran into the other day where we were building a persona using AI. We were anonymizing the data, Irfan, right? We were uploading it. We were building these AI-generated personas for one of our clients. And we were asking about the challenges around buying an electric vehicle. And the answers that we got were the ones that you would expect, right? But at some point, we switch and say, let me have a conversation with you. Just, you are not the voice of the customer, become the customer, and telling me from a personal point of view, what are your biggest challenges? And challenges 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, design, technology, are there enough charging stations? Is it truly sustainable? How can I recycle the battery? They were all the normal ones, but at one point there was a 10th point that was, what would my neighbors think of me? And that's one that we hadn't thought about at all. And I think in terms of creating this partnership and using it to really amplify, springboard, and fuel creativity, I think there's something that goes well beyond the prompt. And for me, it's the most fertile territory in the way we use AI and creativity together.
I think I'm going to open the floor to questioning before we go on to the hot topic of ethics. I think that's probably going to take a bit of time. Are there any questions around kind of AI, consumer, customer relations? There's a question in the front here.
Thanks a lot. Very insightful discussion. So I've been hearing the word context, personalization for you, and then finally the word about human centricity came in. Because there've been a lot of challenges around AI is a data so far. The AI platforms that we're seeing is all data-based, data-driven platforms, large model, smaller model. The question that comes to mind at the end of the day is, where is the human in all this? You mentioned here your examples that made me reaffirm the fact that of answering that question, because your last finding was related to emotions. And coming from the lands of Watson, I guess you understand that very well here. What I'm realizing and I'm failing to hear in these conversations is, where is the sentiments? Where is the human element in everything we're doing with AI? Data is past tense behavior. That could predict future. But what we're realizing now, that a lot of what we're seeing is totally omitting that human emotional element. And does that resonate with me emotionally to better personalize for me in the context of my emotions, not in the context of what I did in the past? So I'd love to hear what you have to say on that.
Absolutely. I think it's a great call out. I think it's really important to realize, as AI has progressed over the last 10 years, it's gone from helping with 2-second tasks to 2-minute tasks, right? And there are lots of 2-minute tasks in our day. Now, as AI continues to progress, there is going to be more, quote, efficiency that we will see. And AI can support a human in doing these repetitive analytical tasks. And what this means is actually something very fundamental to humans, because it means that we need to understand more and embrace more what is human about us. I think there's a really great individual that's come here a few times. His name is Gian Power. He runs the Human Awards. And it's incredible, because I think we're at a moment in time where we need to really look at ourselves and say, what are we doing today to really embrace our human creativity, our human mindset, our ability to collaborate, our ability to be empathetic? I'll give you an example. At one point, I was just chatting with using ChatGPT and say, okay, I'm trying to create a transformational plan. How would I do X, Y, Z? It gave me a very interesting plan. However, it misses the fact that in order to do a transformation, you need to work with multiple stakeholders that all have different agendas, different ideas, and different elements and how they work together across cultures, across values. And this is, for me, probably now where we need to think about our human values and really start to focus on them. And especially when we think about the future of education and our children, right? This is where we need to focus on because, certain careers, when it comes to like focusing on, okay, I'm going to repetitive analytical tasks, those are going to be gone. So who's going to be controlling these machines? Who's going to be driving creativity? And I think it's a really excellent point. I'm really glad you brought it in. And I think there's, the comment stays, right? It's not the AI that's going to take your job. It's going to be the human that uses AI, because AI is truly an enabler, right? And no matter what, is trying to be built out there, I personally don't believe that we're going to see, that artificial general intelligence going to take over the world, and then we don't have anything to do. It's going to be small language models. You can see thousands of them on Hugging Face today, really helping us as individual assistants, and actually something that at IBM we have today. I have my own AI assistant helping me with different tasks, with data privacy, and it's helping me focus on actually engaging with clients, with people in a much more effective way. So thank you for raising that.
I completely agree with Irfan. I think one of the main elements is, on the human side of things, is the space that it creates for humans to be more creative, to fulfill their visions. Same as we've seen with the digital revolution, that allowed people that normally couldn't have opened a brick and mortar store to get into the world of commerce, to get into the world of marketing, this sense of democratization that we've seen. We're going to see the same thing with AI, where people can fulfill creative visions. They can fulfill tasks that they were not capable of doing before, thanks to the help of assisted intelligence. And this notion that we talked about of AI as heavy machinery, AI saving me time, reducing a task that could have taken me hours into minutes or days into hours, that creates spaces to think more about the output. And there's nothing more human than that really having space to think and be more creative. This is what we're seeing the most, right? The time that we're not spending analyzing hours of transcripts of focus groups, we can spend talking about what those people were saying and what they really mean, right? And we use that by using Gen AI to do the heavy lifting for us. So I think the human implications are great. Now, if we look at the final product, at the AI output, that image that is coming from DALL-E or Midjourney, and how it makes us feel as humans, I think we're still in an uncanny valley space. I think we still are not able to capture those emotions. I think we're not still able to translate AI creativity into the same type of creativity that we know and value, but we're gonna get there eventually. But I think the human behind that's gonna play the biggest role.
And just one thing I'll add, I thought a bit as you were highlighting kind of that perspective, is, from an IBM perspective, that there is going to be an opportunity for massive amount of learning, training, and skilling. And if you look at all organizations, IBM included, right, we're putting a lot of focus on training 2 million people globally on prompt engineering. We just sponsored the Prompt Engineering Challenge that took place last week in Dubai, where Sheikh Hamdan, the UAE government, recognizes this is the skill of the future. And there was the coding challenge where they used the Watson X technology to build a website in 10 minutes, just through prompts, right? To build content, right, using Midjourney. And it was incredible. We were all like 100 people in the room watching this competition with a million dirham prize at the end of it, where people coming in from all over the world, using their creativity in order to do this. So I think that there's a huge call out in terms of skills, training, capacity building, because AI is a great leveler and it gives people an opportunity really to rise up and grow. The question is, how are you going to get access to information, knowledge, training, experience to really go up that ladder and sort of own your own destiny as a human?
I'm seeing a career of the future, prompt engineer. Anybody want to get their kids, start getting them to learn how to be a prompt engineer? Hey? Any other questions? Absolutely.
So you mentioned that you're going to be already talking about ethics, which is a very a topic on its own. But one thing also I wanted to ask about is that there is now a known trend of bring your own AI, where almost I think there is a survey that said 60 or 70% of employees mentioned that they are using their own AI tools at the workplace. So how do you see organizations and business entities should have their own corporate regulations to enable employees, because some of them would go to the extreme of banning the use of AI tools, which is affecting productivity, because we know that it will help with productivity for sure, while continue to have this privacy, as you've mentioned, a competitor with the right prompt could reverse engineer the information that you've already put. Plus, I think, I don't know if many people know this already, but if you're not opting out of being tracked at most of AI tools, human reviewers have the access to this data, unless you're opt out of it. So how do you see companies should you regulate this to enable while control their own data as well?
Yeah, I love the question. Thank you for asking it, because I see this as such a big red flag, as organizations will say, okay, let's adopt ChatGPT, let's allow employees to use it. There's no governance, right? How do you know, the data sets that are going in? How can you ensure that the results coming back don't have bias? I mean, AI will give you a response based on the data that has exposure to and that it's trained upon. And I think there's an interesting study where Amazon tried to do this for recruiting engineers, and they realized, hang on a minute, they're prioritizing male engineers primarily because they have more male engineers today. So the equivalent female engineer was not getting selected. And this is a major risk factor. So organizations need to think about, not just AI governance, but AI security. And there are technologies in place in order to allow organizations, and one's actually next week or 2 weeks from now, there's a Dubai retreat. IBM is hosting various discussions around this, where we will show you how to put AI governance into your organizations in a very cost-effective way. It requires some operating model changes. You might need to set up a privacy board, an ethics board, and as use cases come on board and get proposed, how do you make sure this use case is going to have the right transparency, the right explainability, the right fairness, the management of bias, such that you can use it and you can hold your head up high as an organization and say, we are a trusted organization to our clients. And the last data point I'll leave you with is our studies from the Institute of Business Value, the IBM Institute of Business Value, have shown that organizations that adopt governed ethical principles in their businesses, right, the CEOs expect to see 27% more revenue because consumers care about this stuff. And so if you're using data, I think somebody said it before, you got to be very clear. We're using your data in this way. This does not get stored. What is going on? But be transparent, be open, be honest, because this is not just good for your business and risk mitigation, it's actually good for revenue.
Before Alejandro answers, I'd love to see by a show of hands if any of your organizations do have an AI policy of some sort in place. Okay, that's interesting. Alejandro?
I think your question reminded me about when I came to the Middle East and social media was banned at work, right? And today is such an integral part of our lives, right? And I remember there was a time where we could not access Facebook on our intranetwork. I think it's going to be the same with AI. I think one of the big discussions that we're having at Havas and as part of the Havas AI Council is how do we standardize and how do we enable? I think eventually we'll reach a point where companies will choose to adapt or adopt certain platforms. In our case, we are within the Microsoft suite, so potentially we won't be using ChatGPT anymore, and we'll move to Copilot, and we'll have to live with that, whether we think it's good or not. Today we have a partnership with Adobe for the Creative Suite. So I think part of those policies and regulations are going to come with a layer of standardization and corporate partnership. On transparency and ethics, I think we're starting to see internationally AI-specific language introduced into the contracts that clients have with us. Disclaimers. Meta this May introduced the AI-generated label, what they call AI images or manipulated media, to have a layer of transparency with audiences, same as they did with sponsor posts and influencer partnerships. So we're already moving into that space quite quickly. I think regulation is going to happen fast. I think there's already a million question marks every time we're using an image that is influenced by existing information that comes from the web. If I have a prompt that tells me that where I say, give me something inspired by Picasso, is that inspiration or is that copyright infringement? I think there's a million question marks. I think the fact that companies are thinking about this, about regulations, rules of engagements, policies, it is important. And when we think about, we run out of time, I think.
Okay, let's do a quick fire to wrap up. There's obviously a lot of companies here that don't have any policies in place. What's the first thing a company can do in terms of that policy as a start?
I think the first thing that I would recommend is to get the key people thinking about this topic and the ones that participate on those areas that are the most affected by AI, whether it's marketing, data, CX, to Irfan's point, thinking about how do they want to use AI and what are the policies and the guardrails that they want to build around them. I think for me, we call it a council. I think this is incredibly important as an initial step to set those initial guidelines. And I think once you have a framework, then it's much easier to move forward. And I think at a UAE level, we should be thinking about the same, which is great to know that we have that 2041 strategy in place.
Irfan, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to answer the question, what's the first thing? I would say, give us a call. But in reality, I think the first step is to, take stock of what data you have, secure it, understand your vision, get a sense of where AI is going to support you towards your vision. I'm seeing organizations in the UAE develop an AI factory. And I think that the last point I'll just leave you with, this is super interesting, is, AI tools like technology partners would sell you one use case and say, okay, hey, I've got this MarTech tool, it'll help you do social media listening. There you go, here it is, I'll sell it to you. To a point where organizations are building an AI factory within their organization. And I think get the vision right within your organizations. You can actually have a platform now within your own organizations where you build hundreds of AI use cases and you launch them into your organizations with the right people at speed. You control it, you control the data, you govern the hundreds of AI models that are going to be used in your organizations. You understand their risk, their bias, their compliance in real time. You retire a model, you put a new one in, because this is the future of an organization. So I would say start, just give IBM Consulting, give IBM Technology a call. Happy to have the chat and paint the vision big, because the future is bright. And I'd say embrace the human values, because that's what's going to really make the difference. Because AI can be, very consistent across organizations, but that your differentiation will be on not just how you use it, but what are the value systems that underpin how you use it.
I can confirm they are real humans, they aren't AI generated. So you can catch up with them in the break. We could talk about this forever. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Camille.
Thank you.
Thank you.